Good morning, good morning. How are we? Oh, I'm in the shade, never mind. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Facebook Live. I'm just getting set up. I shall be 20 seconds. How are we doing? I am so excited and nervous for this morning. Today we are going to be drawing an oak tree in coloured pencils. My name is Gabrielle. I run the art house Oasis and I run beginners drawing and painting workshops live and in the studio and online. So are we ready? I'm going to just go through a couple of things with you first. Today we're going to work with pencils. Hopefully you've got a range of colour pencils with you. I'll be going through exactly what we need in a minute. We're going to go through some different techniques to get our oak tree on the paper. While we're going through the workshop, if you have any comments, please do comment, please do interact with me. It's really helpful for me. If you have any questions about the process, put them in the comments and I will try and keep up with the comments as we go through. Let me know where you're watching from today, where in the world you are. And I'm going to save this video, so if anybody has to nip out or you can't get through the whole thing, then don't worry, it's going to stay on the feed so that you can come back to it and you can do it anytime that you like. So today this is a fundraiser, so we are fundraising for Acorns. I'm too short, but I've got my t-shirt on here. So I'm just going to read you out a little paragraph before we get started about this amazing charity. Acorns Children's Hospice provides specialist care for life-limited and life-threatened babies, children and young people and support for their families. This support is offered from 3 hospices based in Worcester, Birmingham and Walsall, as well as in the family home and community. Acorns helps families live life to the full, helping to create special experiences that children with complex needs may otherwise miss out on, and help to bring back a sense of normality to family life. It currently costs £27,000 a day to run all of Acorns' services, and 65% of their funding comes from the community. So you can see why little fundraisers like this are just so important. So if you feel that you can contribute, even if it's just a couple of quid, then the links are in the comments. Please do, and every penny will be much appreciated. So thank you for listening to all of that. I'm going to now move the camera, get set up into position, and then we can get cracking. So give me a second. Let me see. How can I switch this around? Here we go. Don't sing, Gabby. Nobody needs singing. Do not sing. Nobody signed up for that. All right. Let's just have a few minutes, get in position, get everything ready. Okay. Camera. There we go. Just going to make sure my charger is working. Don't want any unfortunate blackouts, do we? That would be terrible. Okay. All right, so today, let's just tighten that up. Don't want it to slowly go slumping, do we? Slumping would be bad. Okay, All right, oak trees. We're going to be drawing an oak tree a little bit like these ones. And possibly a few little tulips on the side. We'll see how we get on. So materials, let's talk about materials today. You're going to need a yellow pencil, a light green pencil, a dark blue pencil, a dark green pencil, a brown pencil, probably brown. We're going to see how we go. If you haven't got all of these exact colours, don't worry, just use what you have, it doesn't matter. And then for a little bit of sea in the background or sky, I'm going to use a little, possibly light blue and a black. So that's the range of pencils that we're going to be using today. And then you're also going to want your sharpener and a little tub to put all your shavings in. And a rubber. So that's what we'll be using. It'd be great if someone could comment just to let me know that you can hear me. That would be rocking. If you can just give me a thumbs up or a hi. And I'm just going to get my water. Water. Wow, that's the noisiest water bottle ever. Great choice, Gabs. Okay. Mo, are you there? Can you just comment if you can hear me, just so that I know I've not got it on mute? That'd be great. Go all the way through, completely on mute. Nobody can hear a thing. Might be better that way. Okay, I'm just going to adjust this again. Now, can I zoom in if necessary? No. Okay, so I'm going to get a little tub. Come a little bit closer. Okay. Let's see if we can go even closer. Closer. Come on closer. Okay. So for our tree today, I'm just going to wait for someone to comment just so that I know that that you guys can hear me. All right, so paper, let's make a start. All right, so there is no right and wrong with this drawing. If your drawing does not look like my drawing, please don't worry about it. Please don't worry. Even my drawings don't look like my drawings. Each one is so, so, so different. So there's no right and no wrong. And if you've got little ones who are drawing along, then if they want to go and, you know, if they want to sort of start with us and then go kind of off piece and do their own thing, that's absolutely fine as well. All right, so our tree. Our tree. So we're going to start with our tree. We're going to draw some very, very loose outlines for our tree to really break it down, make it nice and simple, and work step by step. So we're going to draw the outline first with our light green pencil. And then we're going to break up the tree into little shapes like this, and then we'll start to do the shading. So we're going to break it down. Now I'm going to go quite heavy because otherwise you might not see what I'm doing on screen. But I'm going to ask you to keep your lines really, really light because we will be rubbing out some of these. And the darker and heavier you go, the harder it will be to use your eraser. And when we're using our eraser, we don't want to go too heavy with the eraser because we don't want to destroy the tooth of the paper too much. Because what happens is we're layering up colours, and the more layers of colour that you build up, that pigment and that colour gets into the tooth of the paper and it smooths it out. So eventually, if you go too hard too soon, then your paper will get too shiny and then you won't be able to add on any more colours. So you're going to keep yours nice and light and I'm going to go heavier. All right, so let's make a start. Are you ready? Piece of paper in front of you, nice light green pencil or any light green, doesn't really matter. And we're going to start drawing out the outline of our tree. So we're going to start with the base of our tree. So we're just going to do a little slight little hill at the bottom of our page, and that's going to represent the ground. So it's going to look something like that. There's no right, no wrong. Just get something down there. And then once you've got that down, then we're going to just do the trunk of the tree. So it can be sort of about the size of your thumb. Doesn't need to be too big, too thick or too high. But we're just going to do a little sort of curvy line. And I like to do mine on a little bit of a slant, just to make it look a little bit more organic. Just something like that. And then when you've got that, then we're just going to do really, really lightly. You're going to go as light as you possibly can. A little outline, and it's going to look almost like a mushroom shape. You're just doing this sort of rounded shape like this, and it's going to be wider. It's going to be more wider than it is tall. You can keep yours really nice and light. I'm going to go darker so that you can see, but you keep yours light. You can make as many lines as you need to in order to get this sort of shape. Just something like that. All right, fantastic. And now that you've got your outline of your tree in, we're going to work on just creating some shapes inside of that tree so that we can define the sections where all of those leaves are. And they're kind of in bunches. We're going to call them sections. So we're going to define those sections on our page now. We're going to keep them nice and loose. 2 seconds. Okay. All right, so let's get rid of this. Let's go to this. All right. So as we do these, again, yours don't have to follow mine exactly. The idea is we're just going to create these loose overlapping shapes in this area, and we want to make sure that we keep some gaps. So we want some little gaps here and there, but some of them will be overlapping, all of them will be slightly different. So let's go. So I'm going to start sort of roughly around here, and very lightly, I'm just going to create a shape like this. And then I'm going to start moving around like this. Some of them won't be touching, some of them will be touching. Let's do another one like this. And then another one like that. And where we have spaces, these are going to end up as our darkest areas. And these shapes that we're drawing are going to be our leafy sections. We're just working around, keeping your pencil mark nice and light. Let me know if you've got little ones joining in. Are you doing this on your own? Have you got the family involved? Remember, we're overlapping some, and then we're keeping some separate. There's no rules, there's no right or wrong. And that should be enough to start with. We can always add in more if we need to, but that's fine as long as you've got a selection of blobs on your page. Some of them are overlapping, you've got gaps, they look kind of slightly different shapes, and that is perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so next, let's talk about the tree. Okay. So with our tree, now that we have our sections, we can look at actually what makes up each section. And we're going to practice on a separate sheet of paper first of all. In fact, let me see if I can get something closer. just so you can see it more easily. Let's see if it will focus. Let's have a little play. Bear with. Bear with. Okay, I'm going to pull this up. Let's see. Will it stay focused? Let's have a little looky. Yeah, that looks good. Thank you, Mo. You can hear me okay? Let me know. Okay, so we're going to just have a little practice section of one of these little areas, just so that we feel comfortable about how to get to the finished article. So put that aside a little bit. So if you get a separate sheet of paper, and we're just going to draw a little blobby shape, just like we've done on our masterpiece. It's not masterpiece yet, I understand. You've got to give it time, it's going to be fine. So we're going to start off, each section starts off with yellow. So with our tree, we're assuming that the light is coming kind of from behind our shoulder, sort of over our left shoulder. So most of the light is going to be hitting the top of these sections on that sort of left-hand side. So because we want to give all of our sections a little dusting of yellow to begin with, let's just have a little practice. And we're literally just going to very, very lightly, because again, we don't want to fill up the tooth of this paper too soon. Very, very lightly. You're just going to colour in. You're just going to fill in nice and loosely your section with yellow. That's it. And then when you've got that yellow filled in, and it doesn't have to be accurate and it doesn't have to be careful because you're going to be going over it so many times. But once you've done your yellow, then we're going to take our light green colour and we're going to start filling in sort of the lower portion of this section. So again, it doesn't have to be precious. You're just going to take your light green and you can go around in little sort of circles, kind of rough circles. And you're going to fill in the sort of the lower half of that to about halfway and then blend it out. So that yellow is still you can still see the yellow, but what will happen is it's just going to make all the greens we put on top a little bit richer because they've got that yellow base. So you're just going to fill that in, and you can start to roughen up the edge now. You don't have to be precious. You can roughen up the edge, just go over the edge of that section where the green is, just so that you have something like that. And then when you've done that, you can go to your dark green. And this is where you get to use a little bit of detail. So with our dark green, we want to start giving it the kind of idea that you've got actual leafery going on. So you can have a little practice with all sorts of different techniques that you can use. So you can go around in little circles like this, going in different directions, sort of long oval circles. You could do tiny little circles like this. Or you can use a combination of the two. There's no right or wrong. But if you take it to your actual section and you have a look at, say, for example, this, you can see that what I've done is I've just started going around using these little loopy swirls. these little loopy swirls, and I'm coming in to that section where I've got that light green is already there, and I'm just sort of going softer and softer as I get into that yellow area. Softer and softer. I'm coming around the top a little bit. I'm just messing it up, and then I'm using a blunter edge of my pencil just to sort of go even darker, push down a little bit more. And that's kind of what gives us that sort of bushy shape. And we'll add in some details into the yellow later on, but for now, all we're doing is working into that section to make it look as if it's kind of a bushy, leafy, full branch of leaves. Okay? And then what we'll do when we get onto our, when we've popped all of those sections in colour, then we finish off with our dark blue. And then we take our dark blue, and that's where we get into our really little sort of our dark sections, so we can really define those leaves even more with your nice sharp dark blue pencil, if you have one. Or if you've only got brown or black, you can use that, doesn't matter. And you're just using that to really go in and define those leaves even more, just with your loops going in different directions. You can go quite strong right at the bottom, quite strong with your pencil, having a little play with those loops. And can you see how it's kind of starting to come together? And when we've got all of our colour down on our tree, then we'll go round and give some more detail. You can add some really kind of opaque dark blues down around, and just to sort of add interest. Just go with what feels right. That's kind of what we're looking for. Okay, so now that you've had a chance to have a little play with that, then we can go back to our masterpiece. And we can make a start with putting those techniques into practice. Now, before we do so, let's just have a look at this outline. What we want to do is get rid of this. Hopefully yours is nice and light. But I can see that I need to get rid of mine now because it's quite apparent that mushroom shape is still there. So I'm going to go around with my rubber, and I'm just going to rub that out. And we've got a little bit of strobing going on, so I'm going to get rid of one of my lights. Bear with me. Let's get rid of this one. That's better. Okay, so if you've got a very hard line here, then you can go and get rid of that now. I would just say don't rub out too harshly with your pencil, because again it's a tooth thing. So the tooth of the paper is kind of, if you were to look at your paper under a microscope, your paper has like grooves. It's made up of, it's got really deep grooves. And what happens is when you rub away, or when you're using, layers of colour, layers of graphite, the graphite goes into those grooves, and then it fills up the grooves, and then eventually the grooves are not grooves anymore. And then it becomes much harder to continue to lay down anything. And the same goes for using the rubber. If you use the rubber really, really aggressively, then again you can wear out the tooth of the paper. So we want to go sort of as gently as we can, but still getting rid of some of this. But again, we're going to be making lots of mess around the edge, so don't worry about it too much. The majority of it will get covered anyway. Okay. And you'll probably still be able to see the outline there, which is good, because we might still use it. Okay, so let's go for it. So we're going to go around every section that we have, And first of all, we're going to go over them all in yellow. So this is the easy part. You can just take your yellow nice and lightly. No technique necessary. You're just filling it in nice and loosely with some yellow. Oh, I'll tell you what we can do at this point. I'll tell you what we can do is, before we go over the whole thing in yellow, let's just have a look at our overlaps and see where we could just get rid of some of the lines where there's an overlap. So for example here, if I think that this one is going to be in front of that one because they're overlapping, I might just want to, just so I know what I'm doing, just get rid of that line. So now it looks like this section is overlapping this section. So just very loosely and very lightly, just have a look at all of your sections and just see where you think one might be in front of another, and then you want to get rid of those extra lines that you don't need anymore, so that you just know which is laying on top of which. We only need to spend like a minute on this, honestly. It's just so that you don't get confused as to what's going where. So, for example, I think that one might be on top of all of them. That one might be at the back. This one, I think, is on top of this one. These two are going to be at the front. Let's pull these two at the front. So I can get rid of this bit. And this bit. And this bit. If I'm going too fast, don't worry, this will be saved. After the live, this will be saved, so you can always go back to it at any point. It will stay on the feed. If you think anybody might like to join in, then please tag them. Please comment and tag them in. And then they can do this at any time they want to. They don't have to do it right now. They can do it on a replay afterwards. And likewise, if you're watching this on the recorded version, not the live, then please do comment. Let me know where you are in the world. Where are you drawing from? I would love, love, love to know. And also, I would love to know if you're doing this with your kiddies, with your family, whether you're doing this solo. Keep it light. Remember, yours doesn't have to follow mine. Lovely. And once you've got all those eraser marks done, then it should be just clearer where they all sit in relation to each other. Beautiful. All right, so let's go back to our yellow, and let's just go around Very lightly. You're definitely not pressing too hard with this first layer. You're keeping it nice and light. You're barely putting any pressure down. We're just really loosely and fast colouring in these shapes. Don't need to go right to the edges. I'll put this tree next to it so that you can keep an eye on it. Keeping it nice and light. Because we've got about 3 or 4 layers to go on top of this. And all of them need a chance of biting into the tooth of the paper. Give you another minute just to finish that before we move on to the next step. Okay, now once you've got your sections in yellow, then we're going to do the same for the trunk. We're going to fill in the trunk and the grass. So let's just go to that trunk and very lightly, remember you're not putting any pressure down. You're just going to very loosely fill in that trunk. You can bring it around a little bit because we're going to have some branches here and here. Very lightly colouring that in. And then you're going to take this yellow all the way down the little bump in the field, this little hill, nice and lightly. We'll bring it all the way down to the width where that tree stops, either side. You can pull that yellow down. Beautiful. Job done. Job done. I forgot to say, if for any reason my live fails, it'll be because my phone's packed in. If it does, just hang out. We'll come back. I will come back. Okay. So next, we're on to green. So if you can pick up your light green. Now remember when we were practicing with our light green, we're just going to, again, a similar sort of shading. We don't need to be too specific about this shading, but we're going to, it's the mid-tones that we want to work on. So we've got the yellow, which is our highlights. This light green is going to be our mid-tones, and then we're going to put in our dark green and our blues down the bottom. So for now, we're going to start at the top. Now, at this point, because we now have some colour on the page, if you find that you're resting your palm on your tree, I recommend getting a little bit of kitchen towel. Just fold it up. And then what you can do is you can place your palm on your kitchen towel, and it's going to protect your drawing from smudging, because you'll have oils on your hands and it will smudge your drawing. So this will just protect it beautifully. So grab yourself some kitchen towel. Get that ready. Be with you in a tickle. What's going on here? Okay, kitchen towel at the ready, light green at the ready. So, as we said before, our aim is to have all of our highlights kind of at the top. Our yellow's going to stay nice and bright at the top of our clumps of leaves, the top of our sections. And then we're working on the mid-tones here now with our light green, sort of in the middle and towards the bottom of each section. So with your light green, if we start at the top and work our way down, again, you're not using too much pressure. You're just using a nice blunt bit of pencil to colour in and vary your shapes around this section. So you're colouring the bottom of this tree section, of this leaf section, but you're curving it around. You want to have some variation. It's key just to sort of vary the strength. You could go a little bit stronger in some areas, but again, you're not using too much pressure at all. You can go around the top if you want to. Just something like that. Allowing that yellow to shine through. And then we're going to do the same for the one behind it. If your one is behind it, then you can go a little bit stronger. If it's behind, it's going to be slightly darker probably. So you could go a little bit stronger. But we're gonna be building up these shapes still, so don't worry too much. It's just about getting that variation in colour in right now. So keep that little highlight of yellow on the top. Just get some of that pale green in that lower section. And then you're going to work your way around each section doing exactly the same thing. And if you've got a large section, then you could break that up You could break that up with your green. I'll show you what I mean. So this section is quite long. So instead of having it just as one clump, what you could do, I've got sort of a natural dip in at this side. So I'm gonna create a split. Again, there's no rules. You can do whatever you like. Just to create a little bit of variety, why not? Why not? And then we're going to move on to the next section. Each section doesn't take long, take like, a couple of minutes, if that. How are you finding it so far? Do let me know in the comments whether you're enjoying it, whether your kids are enjoying it, whether I'm going too fast. Let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. I would love to see your comments if you're on the live or if you're on the recorded version. It'd be wonderful. Lets me know I'm not alone. Okay, let's move on to some of these ones that are behind. Sharp pencil, blunt pencil, doesn't matter at this point because we're just still working on these sort of background colours. If one's overlapping another one, I'm going to use my artistic license to say that whatever's behind is going to be darker because it's going to be in shade. So I'm going to go a little bit darker. But again, never putting too much pressure on at this point. Just layering up. Let's keep going round. I've got this one that's behind. Again, you don't have to keep in the lines. In fact, it's kind of better if you don't keep in the lines. You just start to rough them up a little bit. This one's sitting behind, so I'm just going to go a little bit darker, pressing a little bit harder. And then the next one. And remember, if you want to sort of cut into them with your pale green, just to sort of give a bit more variety, then go for it. No rules. Let's just do this little one at the back here. Each one's got its own little shape. This one's behind all of them, so it's going to be mostly green. Anyone getting hand cramp? Comment below if you're getting hand cramp. Maybe it's just me. Hand cramp anonymous. As I'm working on these on these lower sections, there's going to be more green and less yellow, because those leaves are coming out and then going underneath the tree towards those main branches. So we're just going to give them a darker vibe throughout. Nearly done, we're doing well. This one's behind, so again, we'll probably build up some darker aspects to it. Yeah, I'll give you a minute to catch up. Get all of your sections in. Let's take that off actually. All right, fantastic. So next. All right. Next, we're going to work on our, if we go back to this test piece that we did earlier, with our dark colours, now that we've got our light green and we've got our mid green in there, now we can start putting in a little bit of detail. So with our dark green pencil, if you have one, we're going to start going around all of the sort of the lower edges and the sides with these sort of long swirly hoops. And if we have them going in different directions, depending on the shape of our section, then that's what's going to make our sections look as if they've got leaves on. So again, we don't need to spend too much time on it, but for each section, make sure you've got your kitchen towel, just to protect your masterpiece. And then for each one, if we start at the bottom again and work our way down, on the sort of the lower end of each one, you can just go lightly with these tiny little swirls, breaking out of that shape. Can you see? Let me bring it closer to you so you can see. There you go. They're really loose, but the more you make and the more we work into them, they look quite scratchy now, but that's perfect. The more you do and the more you work into them, they're going to look like leaves by the time we're finished. So we're just going around. And then as you come up into that yellow section, you can just soften them up a bit, make them a little bit more broken. And we're going to go around each section. And when you break out of the outline, the more loose and the more sporadic you can be, the more natural it will look when it's finished. I'm going to go right around the top with these loose little shapes. I'm not going to worry too much about the actual yellow section itself because we can come back to that later. But it's just about getting some definition now into these areas, and I'm using a little bit more pressure in little areas just to make it look denser right at the bottom. And that's it. That's all we need to do for each section. You're going to go around with your loops and then go back in with a little bit of green. You can colour it in a little bit just to add in a little bit of depth and tone, and then some darker little flicks that again going to give it more texture, more tone. And that's it. So we're going to do that for each section now. So if we start at the top and work our way down, and if you find that you need to just sharpen your pencil, go for it. It's up to you, doesn't matter. I like to have, you can continue, when you have your sharp pencil, can't get the words out, when you have your sharp pencil, it's fantastic because you can get these lovely kind of sharp leaf outlines in. And then when it starts to go blunt, you can just turn it. If you just swivel it, then you should get another sharp edge. You're carrying on with these gorgeous loops all over, pointing in different directions. You can even bring some out completely so they're not touching your existing shape. And that kind of makes it look, gives it a very lively feel, which is lovely. And just adding to that bottom area just to give it some depth and tone, and contrast. Beautiful. And then let's work our way to the next one. Keep your lines loose, all going in different directions. Break out. Variety is key. And go back over just to add some texture. The looser you are, the more lively, which I think is lovely. It gives a lovely effect. You can put a few darker little, maybe press harder with your pencil, a few darker little aspects on the underside. It's almost illustration. Well, it is illustration. You're illustrators now. Okay, next one. Let's go down here. For some reason this feels like hairdressing and I don't know why. How are you doing? If you're watching this on live or on capture, comment below, let me know how you're doing, how you're feeling about your tree so far. We're not even halfway yet, so don't worry if your tree does not look how you want your tree to look. Got plenty of time yet. Let's go for this one up here. Why not? You don't have to follow the same order that I'm doing. There's no rules. Never any rules. I always say that. It's true though, isn't it? There aren't any rules. Who sets the rules? And the more that you go into this, you should find it gets easier and easier as your hand gets used to this kind of motion, this sort of circular motion. Beautiful. I'm going to sharpen my pencil. It's quite therapeutic, doing this sort of repetitive motion. At least I think it is. What do you think? Do you find it therapeutic? Let me know in the comments. Is it therapeutic to watch, I wonder? Is it like that ASMR thing? Have you seen that? ASMR, people eating on camera with their microphones really close. Not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Doing well, we're doing well. This is a test of your patience. Just get into the flow of it and not get too impatient. I would love, at the end of this process, if you follow it through to the end, I would love it if you would post your pictures. Take a photo of your oak trees and post them either in a comment on this feed or on the Art House Oasis group page. That would be absolutely tremendissimos. Tremendissimos. Actually, let's do ones in front first. That'll be easier. If you've got ones that are in front, you might find it easier to focus on them first and then do the ones behind. I don't think it matters, but... Okay. For anybody who does feel like posting their trees afterwards, I'll pop a link in the comments to the Art House Oasis group page, and then you can post there. That'd be wonderful. I would love to see what you get up to. Right, okay, let's do this one. All right, how are we doing? I hope that you're at the same step, you're at the same stage. You've got your first layer of that dark green down. That's fantastic. So now we can look at the tree and just have a look at it as a whole and decide whether or not you want to break into these. The shapes are great, but you might want to break into them a little bit so that you have some variety, so they don't all look like, you know, the same sort of bowl shapes. So when we were going through with our light green, you may have put some kind of light green stripes through some of them. So if you have, then just feel free to just add some random dark lines going through. It's just going to help to sort of make it look a bit more natural, so they don't all look like they're sort of quite uniform. And really, I am just putting kind of crazy marks here. There's no rhyme or reason to these marks. But it's just breaking them up a little bit more. Maybe a little one up here. Just really helps to make it look more organic and more natural, as it would do in the real world. Just to break some of them up, doesn't matter how. Just like a handful of them. And then while you're looking at this dark green, just have a look to see whether, so for mine, I can see that I've got, they're almost looking uniform in how much green I've got at the top and the bottom, but I want to have more dark green at the bottom because obviously those bushes would be going away and under. So I'm just going to go around, I'm going to sharpen my dark green pencil. I'm just going to go around some of them and reinforce the dark green, especially on these lower sections here. So with my sharper brush, I'm just going to, pencil rather, just going to go around them, reinforcing that dark green, then softening up as I get into the light green areas. I'm going to do that here as well. I know that there would be a lot of shade where these sections hit each other. So I'm just going to again reinforce that dark green, especially on the ones that are behind. I'm not spending too long on each one at all. I'm literally just giving them a quick once over. Again, I'm going to use my kitchen towel just to protect my drawing as I move higher up the page. All right, fantastic, fantastico. All right, we're going to have a little break now and give you a little chance to catch up in case you're still working on it. So we'll have a little sort of 10-minute break. I make it almost 11:30 now. So go and grab yourself a cup of tea, stretch your legs, and I will see you back here at 11:40. Okay? So I will see you back then. Okay, we're back. Hey, we're ready for round 2. Let's do this, shall we? Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to go back around our beautiful sections now that are mostly done. We're just going to do a few little tweaks now. If you have a dark blue pencil or a dark brown pencil or even darker green pencil, we're going to use these two. Let me show you. Let me show you the way you go. Why do I do that? I don't know why I keep singing. Stop singing, Gabby. We're going to use our darkest blue pencil, or darkest brown, to just really define a few of the darkest areas in each section. So we're just using it to go around, adding some fine detail, but also just some little shaded areas, just to really push those shadows back and make it look like those sections have got density. So with your nice sharp dark blue pencil and your kitchen towel to protect your hand, let's just, and you can press quite firmly now because you want that strength, that dark tone to show through. I'm just making a few little notches here and there, colouring in a few little sections here and there, adding in a few little loose leaves here and there. Just like that. I'll bring it closer so you can see what I just did. Can you see? So there's not a lot in it, but because we're using that third colour now, fourth colour even, it's going to start bringing that area to life. And then we just go around. I'm just holding this a moment, which is why it's wonky, but just to show you all I'm doing. Let's go in there with a little bit of blue. Make some marks and shade a little bit here and there. It just really gives everything some depth and it makes that highlight pop more. So we're just going to spend a few minutes going around each section with this blue, really getting into that underbelly, scratching away, adding some colour, adding some random leaf shapes. Giving it some oomph. Who doesn't love a bit of oomph, eh? And in that top section, why not? Just a little bit. All over. Beautiful. Hopefully that makes sense. Comment if it doesn't make sense. Comment if you've got any questions. Comment and let me know. I can see the comments now. I've worked out how to do it. I am technologically winning. I shouldn't say that, should I? My phone will die, like, now. Because I think I've got it on charge, but I can't tell. I mean, I have got it on charge. I just can't tell if it's charging. Let's just plough on. Adding this beautiful blue. It's just a beautiful contrast colour. Might not be blue in actual nature, but then we're not drawing a hyper-realistic tree, are we? We're drawing a fun, expressive, illustrative tree based on imagination, not reality, maybe a little bit of reality. Press quite dark. Really get in there into those shaded areas. Looking good. On these lower sections, this sort of lower band of leaf sections, I'm just going a little bit more proactive with the blue. Really building up those layers. Especially where you've got sections that are behind other sections. Keep working round. Is your hand getting tired? Is that just me? Let's go up to the top here. What's your favourite thing to draw? Do you draw generally? Let me know in the comments. What do you like to draw? How do you feel about your tree so far? Is it working out for you? I hope so. We've still got a little way to go. We've still got a little way to go. I've been quite bolshy with my pressure. I'm going for it now. Give you a minute to catch up. All right, fantastic, guys. You are doing brilliantly. Well done, well done, well done. All right, so now before we work on the trunk, we're going to work on the gaps that we've got. So hopefully you've got some gaps going on in amongst your trees, in amongst your sections rather. What we want to do now is we're going to add in some branches. And we're going to do it at this point because then we're going to fill the rest in with some green, but we want to leave some white here and there, just little bits. In fact, let me show you. Stop, don't sing. Do not sing. Let me show you. So can you see here, because I've left tiny little areas of white and then I've then added branches in, it just makes it look as if you've got sky peeking through the branches so that you haven't got one dense solid object. You do have light breaking through in various places. So that's why we want to now pop in our branches so we know where they're going to go, but we also want to be mindful of those areas where we do want to have breaks in the leaves. So we want to keep some areas white. So if you pick up your, if you pick up your black, if you've got black or a dark brown, at this point we're just going to kind of have a feel for where our branches might be in the areas that we want to leave white. So it's going to look like the sky is behind. So for example, in the top, you'll probably want to leave this alone because obviously your tree trunk is going to go there. So we won't worry about any gaps that you've got here. What we'll do there is we'll fill them in with leaves. But anything that you've got going around the side, if you think, oh yeah, do you know what? I've got a little gap there. Then what you can do at this point is just pop in with your black. Just pop in a branch, just a little thin line, nice and light. Just a little branch, just like that. Maybe slightly bendy or even going at an angle. Let's just get them in here now so that we know that's where they're going to live, and then we can try and keep the white there so it looks like the sky's behind. Because I've got like a very slight line there, I might have a little branch coming off that branch like that. So I've got 2 branches there. What can you do in your space? Can you pop in a little branch? I've got another space here, just lower, so I might, in a slightly different angle, pop in another branch. Just something like that. And then you can do the same. If I show you up the top, if you have nearer the top of your tree, if you've got a little bit of space, then you can just have a few little branches going up. So for me, I might have, bearing in mind that's going to be all trunk, that's going to be all leaf. I've got probably a little bit of space there, so I might just do one there. And have that branching off. And then I've got room to have one here. So I might do that, curving around a little, maybe something like this. Maybe one going off like here. And as they get more towards the base, they're going to get thicker. So they're going to get thinner as they go out towards the end of the leaves, and then thicker as they go towards this main trunk. I do one there. And maybe one here, because after all, every single section comes from a branch. They don't just appear out of thin air. And then I might have one coming to here. Got a little bit of yellow there behind, but it doesn't matter. Just something like that. It just helps us to keep in mind that all these sections are actually hanging off branches. Beautiful. And then when we've done our branches, then what we can do is we can go back round any other areas where we've got gaps, and we know that those gaps now need to be our darkest points of the tree. So we're just going to fill them in. So if we start with we're not going to need yellow in these dark areas, but what we can do is we can start with we can go straight for our dark green, I reckon. What do you reckon? Let's go straight for our dark green. So any places where we've got gaps, like in here, I've got gaps here, that are most likely to be trunk and leaves, not sky. I'm just going to go in with my dark green and I'm going to start scribbling away. And this is going to create all this dark shadow, which is going to represent all of those leaves receding into the depths of that tree. So, because it's kind of behind everything else, and I don't need any detail. I just need to colour it in with my dark green. And then because it's kind of the deepest area, I'm then going to go in with my dark blue and reinforce that. Just going to look like that, and that is the darkest area of my tree. It's right in there. And then any other gaps, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just colour it in and then just reinforce it with that blue. Or you can use brown, doesn't matter. You can use black. We might go into it again. You could even, if you think it's not looking dark enough, you can go into it with black, doesn't matter. Do whatever works for you. And if you do have little gaps, occasional little gaps like there, you can keep it. If you've got like a tiny little pocket there and it's not hitting where the trunk would be, but you kind of like having it open, then have it open. I think it's quite nice to have a bit, more sky showing through. And then in this sort of, oh, I don't want to go too fast. Slow down, Gabby. I'll give you a minute to do that. Getting excited now because I'm almost working on the details. Calm down. Okay. All right, so I've got a little section here. I don't know if you've got one of these little sections, but if you have, then it's quite nice. Rather than sort of filling it in like we have everything else, we could do something slightly different. So with our dark green pencil, we could just add in some really light leaf shapes. So you know there's stuff going on, and sort of vary the strength. You know there's stuff going on. You don't need to see what it is. You just know there's things there. Any other little gaps you've got, you could do the same thing. Just add in a few little leaf shapes. Don't always need to be specific. Just to add variety. And then to finish off our leaf sections, can then have a look and see how defined your leaf sections are. See if you want to mess them up a little bit more. So, for example, on this one, every tree is different. Every tree I've ever done has been completely different. So honestly, don't worry about it. But you might want to mess it up more with some scribbles so that there's less of a definition between your dark areas and your light areas. And I've done that here just by adding in some mid-green scratches. Again, on this one, very similar. So I decided that they all look like this initially, but then I decided, yeah, do you know what? I want to sort of, rough them up a bit, make them look a little bit rounder. So if you wanted to do that, and you can always do this after the live if you don't want to do it now. But if you take I'll do it on here so you can decide whether you want to do it. If you take your light green, I'm going to just give it a little bit of a sharpen. I sharpen this baby. Ooh, and then break it because that's how I roll. And then just, again, you're adding those swirly lines. And you can keep doing this. You can keep doing it with the whole tree if you want to. Just adding more swirly lines. And then bringing that dark green in as well. And that will soften up the hard edge. So you can decide whether or not you want to do that. Wouldn't take you long at all if you want to, but it's completely up to you. I might spend 1 minute just going around and doing that a little bit, like literally 10 seconds on each. In fact, you just do light green all over. This is just to give some more detail to those sections so they don't look so clean and smooth in the middle. Like literally 5 seconds, 10 seconds on each one. And can you see that the more of those little oval shapes that you do on each one, the more it starts to look like leaves, which after all, it's kind of the aim. And then where you want to, again, I'm going to sharpen that green, that dark green as well, because you want to have fine lines if you're doing this. And again, I'm going quite delicately now. And in some of them, just drawing a few little sort of half circles. Oh, yeah. Little notches, half circles. Remember your kitchen towel so you don't smudge your drawing. Like little half circles all over the place. Really finessing these sections and making them really look now like they've got loads and loads of texture, lots going on, lots of interest. And that's it for the leaf sections. That's all good. That's all good. Okay, next we can move on to the trunk and the grass, which is fantastic. We're going to aim to finish in about half an hour, 50 minutes. Okay, so trunk. Now we've got our yellow on for our trunk, so let's take our brown. If you have a brown, doesn't matter what kind of brown. let's just take our brown and give it a very lightly, a light dusting with your brown pencil. We're going to go up and fill that trunk in. And then we're going to go along. We might only just see the end of this, the branches coming off of this main trunk, but that's fine because we're going to embellish as we go. I'll show you what I mean. Our trunk is going to end up looking, can you see? It's going to go all the way along. We're going to have these little twigs and branches coming off of it. But for now, let's just get the basic, very light wash in. I'm just going to leave that open-ended, that trunk, that branch either side. And then when you've got that brown in, let's work on the grass at the same time. So for the grass, we've got our yellow down here. So let's get our light green and let's give our grass a light dusting of green. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay. And then when you've done your light dusting of light green, then we're going to go over that grass again with our dark green. And what we'll do with our dark green is we're going to create a little bit of shading, and we'll carry on sort of blending and working out with our layers. But because we know that that oak tree is going to cast shadow, we just want to add in some dark green at the top here and then fading out to that lighter colour. So for now, let's just do our first layer of dark green. So nice and lightly, you don't need to press down heavily with your pencil, but we're just going to get that tone in there. If you hold your pencil further back and sort of quite flat to the page, then you'll be able to get a nice soft line. And then you'll fade that out to the light green. That'll do for now. Beautiful. And then we'll go back into our trunk and we're just going to go a little bit stronger now with our brown pencil. We're going to go up and down. And we're going to go darker at the edges. So we're going to define the outside edge of this trunk now. And we can go dark up into that canopy. We know that's going to be really dark there. If you want to, you can break up this trunk so you could have like a little branch coming off there. Go really dark into this canopy. And then you could soften up a little bit so you have a little bit more lightness, lighter touch as you're coming back down to the base. Just again, add interest. going to vary the strength as I come down. I'm going to just bring it around. I'm just going to come down in a little sort of curve here. Because why not? Again, it just adds a little bit of a more organic feel to the tree. And then again, I might, because I know that root is going to really, the root of that trunk is going to really get into the ground, so I might add in a little bit of a little triangle here of darkness, dark tone. And then we're going to come under that branch. And then I'm going to start giving that branch some oomph. So if I colour in, put in this dark brown on the lower edge of that branch, then it's going to give the top edge of that branch a little lift, a little highlight. That might not necessarily be realistic, but it just helps to lift that branch out and give it a little bit of oomph. And again, as we go to the edge, I'm losing definition there. I'm just going to leave that alone for now because I'm going to add some leaves here behind and in front of that branch. So I don't need to put too much emphasis on what's happening over there. And again, over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give some definition to this right-hand side, but then I'm just going to leave it alone. Don't need to do too much because I'm going to add some greenery over the end of that branch. So that's good for the branch, for the trunk. Now that we've got the trunk in there, what we're going to do is we're just going to add a little bit of blue to that trunk, which is just going to help to tie in the trunk colours to the tree colours. So we know that right at the top of this trunk is going to be the most darkest. So I'm just going to add in a little bit of blue. Little blue like that. And then with the dark green, because we want to also add in a little bit of dark green to that trunk, where we've got light areas on this trunk, I'm just going to give a very light dusting of green, which is going to soften up this trunk colour and help it relate more easily to what's going on above it and what's going on below it. A little bit of green. And I might take that green up very lightly into that trunk area. Gorgeous. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to work on, now that we've got our trunk in, now we're going to work on the grass, the lower section a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop in some more dark green at the top here, fading out, and then we're going to add some grass. And if we have time, we'll see how the time goes. If we have time, we'll add in some flowers, last thing. But next, let's go back over this little hill and we'll add the grass in, we'll give it some more tone. So with our dark green pencil, or any green that you have, we're just going to start adding in these little sweeps of grass. And if I just show you on the back here very quickly, our sweeps of grass are literally, they're just going to go like this. Like this. That's it. You can have a little practice on your practice sheet of paper if you want to before starting it. But literally that's it. You're going slightly left, slightly right. You could have bendy ones. You could do bendy ones like this. have a little practice of that. And then you can start with on your masterpiece and just maybe have a look at it in relation to your tree, yeah, so you can see how big your grass is going to be. It's not going to be that big. Just kind of like this. Just adding these lovely little tufts. Until you get to the light area of your field. And then when you get to the light area of your field, you could carry on, but with your lighter pencil. Now I'm going to take that lighter pencil up and just break up those grasses that we've just done, just ever so slightly, just to give it a little bit more depth, just so it doesn't look too much like pretend grass. And then when you've done your grass, then you can have a look to see whether or not you've got enough dark green up here. If not, I think my dark green isn't dark green enough. So I'm going to take my dark green and I'm going to reinforce it, because that oak tree is, you know, in all honesty, is casting quite a lot of shade. So how is your shade looking? If you haven't got enough, if it doesn't look punchy enough, then go for it. Give it another sweep around like this. It'll just make it look more dramatic. It'll fix it more in the landscape, which is always a good thing. Let's try a little bit of blue. I'll do it and then you can decide whether you want to do it. Let's see whether blue's a good idea. Yeah, I think blue's a good idea. If you want to give it a light dusting of blue, go for it. And I might even just reinforce those a few of those grasses. Beautiful. All right, so now we're on to the finishing touches, actually. So, finishing touches. Finishing touches are going to look like this. I'll show you on this one. We're going to add some tiny little leaves in various points around our tree, just to, again, break up any uniformity we've got going on, make it look more like there's sporadic, you know, bits and pieces going on. It just helps to make it look lively. And as if it's kind of sort of, you know, flowing in the wind a little bit. So just using your dark green pencil, we're going to do that around the edges. Dark green pencil, nice and sharp for this. So any way you think, no rules, any way you think that you might like a few extra little shrubberoonies going on, just add some little leaf shapes. They don't have to be as long as that, just anything really, just little dots that are breaking out of those forms. We're going to work on the underside next, so don't worry about the underside too much. It's just sort of around the edges of these sections. It looks like kind of leaves are flying off the tree, doesn't it? It looks really cute, I think anyway. What do you reckon? Comment below. Let me know what you think. Are you enjoying adding these little sprigs? I think it really, really helps to bring it to life. Love it, love it. You can add as much or as little of this as you want. This is your drawing. This is your masterpiece. Okay. All right, next. We're doing really well. We're nearly done now. We're like 90% done. Okay, so the last couple of things we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of shrubbery here just to break up these branches. We're going to add some tulips, and we're going to add a little bit of sea. Sea is optional. We'll talk about the sea in a second. But first of all, let's just break up our lower branch now that we've got everything else in. Let me show you on this one. So on this one, you can see that we've got our lower branches, but we've got some leaves covering the branches in front, and we've also got some little hint of leaves behind the branches poking through. So that's what we want to do, just to break up this branch. I'll show you on this one as well. Same deal. We've got some lower overhanging leaves covering the branch, and then we've got some little leaves behind the branch, and it just helps to fix that branch into the tree. So if we go in front of the branch first, have a little look at your branch, and especially at the edges, if you can see the edges, you know, the ends of your branch, then just have a have a little think about where your lower leaves might hang. So if you start off with your light green pencil will be fine. Just have a little play with just dropping in a few leaves over that branch. If you want to, you can rub out the end first. You probably wouldn't need to by the time you've put in all your layers, but if you want to, go for it. And you're just gonna obscure the end of that branch with your layers. You know what to do. Your light green, won't even bother with the yellow. And then your dark green. And then your blue. In fact, you can keep it all really, really dark, because although it's kind of at the front of the tree, it's also underneath, it's also right at the bottom. So it's going to have all that shade on it. But again, you can break out, put in a few odd leaves around it, just to break out that shape. And then you can do the same on the other side. I might add a couple of little shapes. Fill them in with the light green and the dark green. And then the blue. And then a few little odd leaves just here and there. Beautiful. And then to finish off the leaves behind your branches, depending on how low your branches are, just take your dark green or your blue, it's up to you. You can see you've got blue ones there and green ones here. You're just going to add a few little leaves below those branches, just to show that they're really overhanging behind. So if you've got leaves behind, then you want to just sort of add a little bit of greenery above, just so that there's, you can explain them. A few little circles going on. Just something like that. Again, just to add some more detail. Makes the trunk look more interesting. That's brilliant. Okay, so now we're just going to work on the final details, which is a little bit of, well, I'm calling it sea, but it could be sky. Totally up to you whether or not for the final touches you want to add in a little bit of a blue background, which could either be sea or sky. I'm thinking lake, actually, lake, and then we'll add in some flowers, and then we are all finished. But it's up to you. You could do your flowers just on white if you wanted to. Or you could do it on the blue. Let's have a think. What should we do? Let's do blue. Let's do blue. All right, light blue, people. If you've got a nice light blue colour, get your light blue pencil. We're like 98% there. Light blue pencil. We're going to hold our pencil far back from the tip. We're going to hold it kind of parallel to the page, because in that way we can get really nice, let me show you. We can get a really nice rhythm going on like this, and it'll be nice. It'll be a nice smooth colour. Whereas if we're holding it right close to the tip and we're on an angle, we're going to get scratchy marks, which is not what we want. So with your pencil, and you're going to hold it nice and far back, we're just going to, let's say our lake is going to be like halfway up that trunk. Now your lake can be however high up you want. I'll show you on these ones. This one, the lake goes right up to the lower branches of the tree. This one, the lake stops halfway, and it also has a kind of white, we're leaving sort of a little bit of a white shape before it hits the trunk, which is quite nice. It makes the tree stand out a little bit more. So for the sake of this drawing, I'm going to do that. But if you want to take your lake up higher, you do it. We're going to hold our pencil nice and far back. And just very lightly. I'm not going to hit the tree. I'm just going to keep a little bit of a channel of paper, a channel of white where I'm not touching between the tree and the lake. And I'm just going to give a nice light dusting of colour going across. Something like that. Nice and light. Easy peasy, lemony squeezy. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just doing it by eye, I'm not using a ruler or anything. God, you've done so well. You're so nearly there. Lovely. Look how pretty that is. And then, when you've done that, I'm just going to take my dark blue pencil, the one that we've been using, and I'm just going to add in a little bit of dark blue shading towards the bank, towards us, and then I'm going to fade out as it goes further back. So just using my blue again, I'm holding it far, far away from the tip. I'm holding it nearly parallel to the page. I'm just very gently going to give a little light dusting of this second tone. Just really, really lightly. Again, it's all about adding interest. And then the same on the other side. And that's probably all we need to do. Oh, I've got a little bit of my shape is still sticking out, my original mushroom. If you've got a bit of it, your original mushroom sticking out, then you can just go back and erase that. All right, so finishing touch, final finishing touch. Tulips. Let's do some tulips, because why not? They will beautifully accompany our tree. So our tulips, they're so cute. They're so cute. So the tulips, let me go closer just to show you. I just used, you can use any colour for your tulips, totally up to you. I used a pink and an orange, so pink, orange and green. Really simple. Pink, orange and green. Let's find a pink. Orange. And green. Let's go for that dark green, why not? Okay, so with your 3 colours for our tulips, just make sure that your pencils are nice and sharp, because we need to be nice and refined for these beautiful tulips. Just giving me pencils to sharpen. Nearly done, guys. Can nearly set you free. Go and sit in the garden. Is it nice out? It's all right. Could be worse. All right, tulipsos. All right, so for our tulips, we are literally, see our tulip shapes. Our tulip shapes are literally like that. That's it. We're filling them in like this. So thinner at the top, wider at the bottom. That's all we're doing, okay? Just on a smaller scale. So for our tulips, on a much smaller scale. So I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to do, say, 3 tulips. 1. All facing different angles, different heights, different angle, different height. Different size. It's not much of a different size. It's fine. 3 pink ones. Orange ones. Watch my pencil break. My speciality. Orange. 1 tulip. 2 tulips. 3 tulips. That's it. You can do as many or as little as you like. You could do them on both sides. You can do them all the way along. You could do different flowers. You could do roses. Roses are difficult. Daisies. Smaller little daisies. What else? Anything. You could do a shrub. But we'll just stick to tulips for now. And then when you've got your tulip colours in, should I go closer? Is this so tiny it needs to be closer? Put it on here. If it goes out of focus, I'll be able to tell. Okay. Let me just see if that stays in focus. Yeah, that's good. That's fine, I think. So we're just going to do our stems. Stems. So you can see there, kind of the stems are all slightly curvy. They're all going to the left, and then they're all going to the right. And they're just going to... So if you just start with your first tulip, you can go lightly if you're not sure. You can go really lightly. And then you can reinforce your, your shapes once you're sure that you're happy with them. But they're just going to look a little bit like this. So I'm just going to go for it. They're crissy-crossing. And then, because mine are sort of in my light section of grass rather than in my dark section, I'm just going to do a few little extra lighter leaves coming off. That's it, just to make it look like there's something going on there. Then let's go back down again in size. How are your tulips looking? So that's it. Basically, that is it. The only last thing to do is to decide if you want to reinforce your branches in between that are peeking in between your tree sections. If you want to refine those branches, you can go for it. If you want to add more embellishments around the side just to add that prettiness, you can go for it. Your tulips, if you want to, keep on going with your tulips. Have a whole field. Have a whole field of tulips. Why the heck not? But I'm just going to take my camera off here now. Let me swap it around. Guys, you are finished. You have, hopefully, completed your drawing of an oak tree. I think, a round of applause. Everybody, it's just me here. Everybody, thank you. Guys, thank you so much. You have done brilliantly. Go and get some fresh air. If you're happy to share your drawing of your tree, please do take a photo of it and post it in the comments or on my Facebook page. And equally, this event has been for Acorns Children's Hospice. So if you feel like you can donate, please go and donate, even if it's a couple of quid. The link is down below in the comments, and thank you so much. You guys have a fantastic day. If you're watching on catch up, then enjoy it. Please do comment, because interaction is fantastic and really important. Thank you, and I will see you for the next demo. Take care, everybody. Bye.